All right, so welcome everybody to today's live lesson. I'm going to try and go over a past paper question. Do not worry if you are not at this point in the course. Every time we have a live lesson, you will learn about a new concept. So it is really worth your while coming into the live lessons. Don't worry if you're where you are in the course. It's irrelevant. You're going to learn something, okay, no matter what. Okay, so let's get into today's topic. I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to be looking at this past paper, a past paper exam. Now, I've been doing this over the last few weeks of the live lessons, looking at different sections of the exam. Section A, which is about reading, which tests your close reading skills. Are you paying attention to detail? Then I looked at summarizing. Do you know how to summarize and the kinds of things you can do in order to summarize? And now I'm going to look at section B, which is all about writing. Okay, section B, writing. So what I want you to keep in mind is that you have a time limit when you write your exams. And don't worry if you're nowhere near writing your exams. It's just good for you to know about anyway, for when it does come time for you to write your exams. 1 hour plus 10 minutes reading time. Okay, so you have 10 minutes to read, and then you have an hour to do section A, and then half an hour to do section A, and half an hour to do section B. Make sure you keep an eye on the time. So you're going to have half an hour, 30 minutes, to write something here in section B. It's not much time, which is why planning is very important. And that's actually what I want to focus on today, is planning for your writing. Okay, so this is the kind of question you could expect to get. Write an article for a magazine called Living Earth. All right. It's about the harm that pollution is causing the planet. So now we understand why the magazine is called Living Earth. It obviously focuses on environmental issues. All right, so you have to pretend that you are a journalist writing this article. Now it's a magazine article, and it's going to be about pollution. So it's going to be an informative article. You are going to give people information. So it has to be relevant information. And an article can be quite formal, right? And if we think about audience, because audience is also important, who are you writing for? Who do you think, and just think this for yourselves, who do you think would read Living Earth magazine? Everybody on the planet? No, highly unlikely. A specific audience will read Living Earth magazine. Now, magazines are quite a luxury item, and only people who had a certain level of income would probably buy magazines, although a lot of magazine articles are now online. But even so, not everybody can access the internet. So I would argue that it's probably more affluent, people who have a bit of money, affluent, have some money, affluent, or educated people, who would most likely, because this is generalizing, but in general, these are the kinds of people who would buy the Living Earth magazine. So keep that in mind. So that's why it's probably best if you write a bit more formally, because you are going to be looking at an affluent or educated audience. Now, you could include the following in your article. Always take notes of the bullet points you are given. They will give structure to your argument. It's all about structure. So include these, mention these, all right? Different sorts of pollution, air pollution, water pollution, litter, etc. The causes and effects of different sorts of pollution. Ways to raise awareness of the harm that pollution causes through films, websites, fundraising events, etc. So it says you could include. I would include them, okay? Because it gives you a bit more to write about. You've got some sort of structure to stick to, so include them, all right? That's why it's very, very important to plan your writing so that you can include the structure that is already given to you. So obviously you're going to have a title, right? Don't write the word title. I'm just doing that for illustrative purposes. You're going to write your title and whatever it's going to be. Then you're going to brainstorm. Okay, and brainstorm is when you come up with ideas and you write them down. Keywords, key phrases that you can expand on when it comes to writing your article, okay? So remember, you're not writing out the article here in the plan. You're just going to spend 5 to 10 minutes listing out keywords, key ideas that you want to explore more fully when it comes to writing your ideas out in full. So the whole point of this article is about pollution, okay, the harm of pollution. So that is our central idea. I'm just going to write that here, pollution. That is the main idea. But what about, or more specifically, what kinds of things are we going to look at? The different sorts of pollution. For example, we're going to look at air pollution, okay? We're going to look at water pollution, okay? And what else? And we're going to look at litter. All right, so we've already been given 3 lovely key ideas that we can expand on. Right, so let's think of some keywords that we can relate to the ideas of air pollution, water pollution, and litter. I'm going to open up the chat box here. Please feel free to give some comments, to add some ideas. So what's a bit annoying is every time I write with the pen, the chat box disappears. So air pollution, for example, I think a major form of air pollution is caused by airplanes. Constant movement of airplanes through our atmosphere. This is a problem. They use a lot of fuel. Another thing I know about air pollution is the ozone layer. Hopefully you've heard about the ozone layer. And the fact that there was a hole in the ozone layer which was caused by chemicals called CFCs. There has been an attempt to reduce these chemicals because of certain structures of spraying cans and these kind of things. So I could talk about that in terms of air pollution. What else do I know about in terms of air pollution? Well, what about factories or industry? Call it industry. Things like smoke or smog. You know, when smoke sort of lies over an area and covers it, looks like smog. So as far as air pollution is concerned, here's some ideas I can explore. What about water pollution? And please, like I say, feel free. Automobiles, very nice. Okay, good. Yes, automobiles, lovely. Nice suggestion, automobiles. Okay, so any sort of vehicle that runs on the road. What else? Any other suggestions? Okay, we've looked at air pollution. Come to water pollution. Any ideas that we can think of, just off the top of your head? Remember, you're brainstorming. Plastics, good, good, good. Yes, plastics. All right. Plastics are a real problem, especially in the oceans, isn't it? Okay. What other kinds of water pollution do we get? Just think about it for yourselves. What other water pollution do we get? Sewage, oils, good. Oils, sewage. Sewage. We need to call it sewage plants that dump sewage into the waters. Oils, plastics, anything else that you can think of? Chemicals from industries, very good, yes. Chemicals. Okay, dead animals, interesting. It's an interesting one, and I say this because bodies are biodegradable. So they can break up and become part of the environment. So in themselves, they are not problematic. But yes, if you had a whole bunch of animal carcasses dumped into a water system, it's going to poison people and other animals. So yes, you're right. Okay, very nice suggestions there. Let's go on to litter. What can we say about litter? What do we know about litter? Let's see some of your suggestions coming through. Plastic again, yes, I'll write it now. So plastic is still a major problem when it comes to littering. What about, where do we put our litter? Where does it go? Do you know what happens to it? Okay, so I'm just going to write a few things down here. plastic. Have you ever heard of land dumps or landfills? Okay, where waste is just dumped from the rubbish trucks. They just dump them, and these huge mountains of waste build up. And then what they'll do is they'll dig holes in the area, and they'll just dump all the waste in there, and then they'll just cover it up. Okay, that's a problem because it's seeping down into the earth, and things grow out of the earth, and we consume things that grow from the earth. Other things that you could think of where litter is a problem is, for example, on beaches. Beaches is, beaches are part of the land, and you don't want to walk along a beach and it's full of trash. Okay, so plastic goes to landfill sites, absolutely. So we've already got quite a few things we can explore just in terms of the different kinds of pollution that you get. Okay, so now let's go back to the other things. Causes and effects of different sorts of pollutions. We've touched on some of the causes, right? So maybe we should have been a bit more specific. Air pollution is pollution of the air. Water pollution is things like oceans, rivers, lakes, etc. Okay, and litter is on land. I suppose it could also be in the water, but because we're focusing on litter in general, even in cities, for example, let's just say that, cities, these are the kind of things you could expand on. So you would define what they are, and then you would expand on their causes and effects. So we're kind of covering that. We could also mention the idea of the effects in general, which maybe we'd want to put in an introduction, just a general introduction to our topic. So you could say things like, pollution poses a harm or a threat to human, animal, and sea life. Okay, so not just us that's affected, it's other organisms as well. It raises temperature, and what do we know is the main problem about temperature being affected through pollution? What's it called? Anybody know? Raises temperature, thus causing, we don't have to write it out in full, but anyway, thus causing, let me see if anybody's got it. Global warming, good. Oh, interesting. Okay, so causing global warming. Okay, there was a very interesting bit of information here given by one of you brilliant students. And let me read it out to you. So this isn't related to the topic, but mining produce sours. Wow, sours, causing harm to environments. Am I reading that right? Did you mean to say sours? Is that what it's known as? I've never heard of that before. Because that's very interesting. And you know what? It is absolutely part of this topic. It is, because it's about polluting the environment. And I think this would come into land pollution. In other words, litter, I suppose. Or you could actually just litter and land pollution. We could put this in one. You don't have to use those exact ideas they've given you. You can expand on them. So if we want to also include land pollution, we could say mining. And if we're right here, sours, and we'll just say toxic poisoning to land. Okay, so very nice. Wow, we all know quite a lot about this topic, poisoning land, toxic poisoning land. All right, so look at all these ideas that we can expand on. You wouldn't want to spend any more that we've been spending here. You try and do this a bit quicker. Obviously it's taking us a bit of a while because I'm trying to interact with you, which is very important. So here, yes, you said it is sours. When empty mines are left, water lies in it, and all the sours of the minerals and mining equipment leaks out. Brilliantly put. Do not apologize. Excellent. That is so interesting. So that's brilliant. You know about that. That is something you could write on. And yeah, excellent suggestion. And here's another one. Would burning fossil fuels be in the category air pollution? Yes, you're right. It would be. Burning of fossil fuels. There's another key word that you definitely want to mention in anything related to the environment. Fossil fuels. And we burn fossil fuels, yes. This is mostly related to industry, but I guess you could say that airplanes are actually burning fossil fuels too when they're flying up high. So there's definitely all of this that would link in. Good suggestions, guys. Really, really nice. Okay, so now the last part that we haven't tackled, the third bullet point, raising awareness. Okay, so how would you go about raising awareness? Okay, what are some keywords that spring to mind about raising awareness? Okay, now they have given us some. They've given us some in terms of films and websites and fundraising events. So as far as films are concerned, for example, the one I know about is by an American politician called Al Gore. And his film, it's a very famous one, is called An Inconvenient Truth. Because the reason why we ultimately pollute is for convenience sake. It makes our lives convenient to have plastics, to be able to jump on a plane and be in another continent within hours, etc. So it's an inconvenient truth. So perhaps some of you have heard of this. So that's a film, for example. A website that springs to mind would probably be something like Greenpeace, right? Greenpeace would probably promote some sort of environmental ideas in their Greenpeace campaigns. There's other big societies that do that kind of thing. Let me see what your suggestions are. Anybody suggesting anything for this part? Cleanup days, yes, good, okay, yes. So this falls under that idea of fundraising events. That last one there, fundraising. So schools and charities, perhaps, schools, charities, communities even, doesn't have to be organizations, communities could do cleanups. So this is part of fundraising. Sorry, I meant to write that first, and sorry for the terrible handwriting. Fundraising, okay. So cleanups, for example, of beaches and parks, okay. You could do things like, for example, I think a nice one is recycling workshops, teaching people how to recycle. So recycling workshops that people have to pay to attend, and you can use that money towards paying for some recycling bins or something like that. So recycling workshops. Okay, anything else? I'm coming back to the chat box. Educating children to help clean, yes, to help clean the environment and to know what is happening. Yes, good. So they could put out leaflets, although that's actually kind of probably going to pollute the environment. They could educate through designing their own website with a leaflet on it. They could do electronic leaflets. They could do emails, right? So we'll just say electronic. Okay, oh, this is just getting terrible. I don't know why my pen is so unresponsive today. So electronic, all of these things could be used. You could also write to airplane manufacturers, to car companies. You could write to municipalities to suggest that they raise awareness of these issues. So there's a lot of things that you can write about here. So you're going to have to try and limit yourself, because remember, you've got a time limit. All right, so hopefully this would take you something like 5 to 10 minutes maximum, then you want to start writing. Let's get on to the title first. The title is very important. And when I first started brainstorming for a title, I thought I'll just call it something like The Dangers of Pollution, right? The dangers. I'm just going to try and write. I don't know why this pen is of pollution. It's not writing completely when I write. Come on. The dangers of pollution. And I thought, it's a bit boring. The dangers of pollution. We've heard about that before. So I kind of crossed it out. Then I had pollution is harmful. But it's also just a little bit boring. Pollution is harmful. Yes, we know. All right, so cross that one out. You don't want to spend too much time on it, but eventually, here's a nice suggestion. Are we really helping our Earth? Are we really helping our Earth? Okay, that's lovely because it's a rhetorical question. which means that some ideas are going to be posed in response to this. It's rhetorical because you're trying to get people to think about it, and you're going to explore the kinds of things they could think about. Okay, so are we really helping our Earth? Right, nice. Okay. I was going to play on this idea of P in pollution, the letter P in pollution. So power of pollution. I don't want to really talk about pollution in a positive way, and power suggests something positive. But if I put an adjective in front of power to make it negative, I thought about pervasive, the pervasive power of pollution. So just showing the marker that you know how to play on words. And just as you did with this rhetorical question, you know about figures of speech, about ideas, the way things can be presented. Very good. The pervasive, wow, this is just awful. The pervasive power of pollution. So that became my final title. Okay. Obviously, that will go down here. Note that it would go here at the top where I've put a link to the story we're going to look at now, although we're running out of time. Note you're given 2 pages to write in. Use the space if you have the time. Try to write 2 pages. Pay attention to your purpose and audience. We spoke about it before. Pay attention to your text structure. What I mean by that is you're going to have a title. Use subheadings. You're given that structure already. You're given these structures. You're different types of pollution. Next one. The causes and effects of pollution. Next one, raising awareness. Okay, so you've got all 3 points that they've suggested to you covered. And you're going to go into, and you can even have subheadings under your headings. So different sorts of pollution: air pollution, water pollution, land pollution. All right? So that's the kind of thing you want you to have. But before you went into any of these bullet pointed details, you need to introduce the topic. You need to, so you'd have your title here somewhere. I'll just put it here, title. Yeah, this pen is definitely not responding today. Title. And then you'd have your introduction. Now remember, you don't write the word title. You don't write the word introduction. I'm just showing you where they go. Your introduction, and this is your general overview. So I'm going to show you the one that is given in the article that we're about to look at, the link of which is supplied here. And only then would you go into your main text, your heading 1, and then you'd explore it in your paragraph, and then your heading 2, which you would explore in another paragraph, and so on until you come down to the end and you have your conclusion, where you tie everything up nicely in a brief way. Okay, so you don't just leave an idea hanging, some sort of concept about pollution and toxic chemicals polluting rivers, and that's the end of your article. No, conclude, give a conclusion. So bearing all of this in mind and looking at the time, let's have a look at this article. I'm going to click on it here. Hopefully you can all see that. Please let me know if you can't see it. Oh, here's another suggestion for a title: problematic pollution. Very nice. Yes, playing on alliteration, drawing attention to the title. Very nice. So I just want to give you a heads up about this article. I like the way they have structured the article, which is why I've chosen to use it. But there are grammar errors in this article that I want you to be aware of, and that I will point out to you if we come across it if we have time. So please don't get upset if when you look at the link you notice it's full of errors. It's mostly because of the way they structured it. That is what I want to show you. So they've got a title, which I think could be better, but anyway, it affects the environment and your health. What does? Use your key word in your title. Pollution affects the environment and your health. Addressing the audience directly, so that was good. It's your health we're going to talk about here. So let me just check. Everybody's good. You can definitely see this. Yes. Okay. So pollution is when gases, smoke, and chemicals are introduced into the environment in large doses or quantities that make it harmful for humans, animals, and plants. Some forms of pollution can be seen. Some are invisible. What an interesting idea. And isn't that a nice way to introduce the topic? Gives a broad range of pollution and what it is. Our Earth, now your introduction doesn't have to be as long as this. It's just for illustrative purposes. Our Earth has an atmosphere that's made up of different gases. The amount of gases on our atmosphere is just right to encourage life on our planet. We breathe the air and we thrive on it. Because of our advances in technology, we are introducing new chemicals into our atmosphere, causing an imbalance. The most popular effect of this imbalance in nature is global warming. How would you know about all of this? Because, as I've mentioned to other foundation students, you need to read articles, read magazines, read newspapers, read books, read fiction, read non-fiction, everything you can get your hands on, read about it so that it's easier for you to write about it and use terminology so that your marker can see that you are well read and that you know what you're talking about. And so they've divided their article into headings. So, for example, the different kinds of pollution. Here we have air pollution and an explanation. We have land pollution and water pollution. And then they have a little conclusion at the end. And each time they talk about a form of pollution, they talk about the effects and causes, which is one of the bullet points that we looked at in the question. So they did that by putting it into the section of the type of pollution that is being referred to, and that's fine. Look at this conclusion. By knowing how our daily activities affect our environment, we can help reduce pollution in our own small way. Learn more about the state of our environment by browsing the articles on, and then you could make up a website, and that's a nice way to end an article because it's what we call a call to action. You are making your reader do something which contributes to the ideas you are exploring in your articles. It's actually quite a nice way to finish off an article. And you can read this for yourself through the links. You'll see how they go into pollution. For example, let's look at this very last one. Water pollution. What will we do when we run out of clean water to drink? That nice question that is put at the beginning to make you think, beginning of the paragraph, and then it explores it. And it gives more questions even. What will happen when the oceans, rivers, and lakes are so polluted that all the fish and aquatic animals die? Water keeps us alive, and it's very important for us to have clean drinking water. There was a time when we could safely drink from our faucets or taps, but now we don't know if the water is really safe to drink, and we buy purified water in bottles. So this is the States, this is America that's being referred to here. Right, we've run out of time, but at least you have an idea of the sort of structure that your article would have to have and the kinds of ideas you need to explore and how to go about getting those ideas. You know more than you realize, okay? So that's why it's definitely important to do.